There you go.
Okay. I'm Lauren Humphrey, this is Colin 10, and this is my informative speech. So I'm sure you've all seen dreadlocks at some point in your life and wondered, what are they, how are they made, and why do people choose to have dreadlocks? I know I've definitely noticed them because they're attention-getting, they're unique, and they're somewhat intimidating. So what are they? They're matted coils of hair that are intentionally formed by a variety of textures according to the different methods. And the most common one is that you don't cut or brush your hair so that hair naturally twists together as it grows. According to the website How to Love Dreadlocks, accessed on February 17, 2015. So where do dreadlocks come from? I'm going to tell you about their history in 3 separate parts. I'm going to talk about how they first were recognized in history in ancient Egypt and later came to be associated with Eastern holy men who then fled slavery to the Caribbean, where they came to be more strongly associated with Rastafarian culture. And more recently, they've been perpetuated in pop culture by style icon Bob Marley. And so, despite the fact that dreadlocks are often associated with radicalism, it's interesting because they originally were used as a symbol of conformity with peaceful religious groups. So they were first known in history in ancient Egypt, according to website article The History of Dreadlocks published by Vitamin A Industries in 2015. They found them on mummies and archaeological digs. And then later in history, they came to be more strongly associated with Eastern holy men, including Indian sages, yogis, and Tibetan monks, according to an article entitled The Roots of Dreadlocks, published by WordPress in 2015. And so the religious meaning behind dreadlocks is that they're like used by men who believe that they should possess nothing. They want to renounce all their possessions, so they also renounce vanity. And so that's according to a scholarly journal article titled The Dreadlocks Treatise on Tantric Hairstyles in Tibetan Buddhism, published by the University of Chicago in 2008. And so according to a history article that I already referenced, The History of Dreadlocks, when America abolished slavery, people started trying to enslave other groups of people, like people in India, and so then these Eastern holy men with dreadlocks fled the East and went to the Caribbean, where they would then become associated with the Rastafarian culture. They sort of like enmeshed themselves in that land, and then the natives of the Caribbean started picking up their style of dress. And so eventually the hairstyle became an integral piece of Rastafarianism. According to Bob Marley's redemption song, The Rhetoric of Reggae and Rastafari, published by the Journal of Popular Culture in 1995. Rastafarianism started with Rastafari, who was the king of Ethiopia in the 1930s, and he was forced into exile, and so then his guerrilla warriors refused to cut their hair until he was returned, and so the religion came to stand for social reform and like groups of people that were fighting to keep independence within their own country. And so, in time, authorities started trying to suppress Rastafarianism because it was associated with things that weren't like typical for the culture. They believed that smoking marijuana, which they called ganja, was the clearest state of being, and the authorities didn't really like that because it was messing with the rigidity of their social structure. And so, the name Dread was born because it was associated with this group of people that were combative, and so they were afraid of them. And it's interesting because the social tension that was originally connected with dreadlocks eventually turned more friendly by means of popular culture and Bob Marley. So more recently, we're familiar with dreadlocks because Bob Marley had them. And so he became the face of Rastafarianism, according to an ebook, Bob Marley, a biography by David Moskowitz, published in 2007. And so he wrote songs that were about social change and the socioeconomic structure of Jamaica, where he was part of the lower class that was there, and he was called a rude boy. And so he felt oppressed, and his songs were about converting religions into Rastafarianism, and so he also possessed the tenets of renouncing vanity. And he had the dreadlocks because he wanted to contrast the straight hair of the whites that lived in Jamaica. And so he became part of the Wailers, the band Bob Marley and the Wailers, and they became popular. And they were the first famous band to adopt Rastafarianism, which included having a strict diet, active Bible reading, and aggressive ganja smoking. And their first tour was called the Natty Dread Tour, which perpetuated the style of dreadlocks even more. And so, despite the fact that dreadlocks are somewhat off-putting, they do have a far-reaching history and powerful symbolism, including self-empowerment and the rejection of vanity. They have a variety of associations, including being a trademark for religions, and a form of expression for groups of people and a style icon. And it's really amazing that something so simple as a non-traditional hairstyle can be so powerful for uniting groups and conveying meaning. Okay.